Back in the mid-90s, a German board game came out that completely redefined the board gaming industry. It was the nerds who discovered it first after it won the coveted Spiel des Jahres, and it offered a gateway into Euro games for North Americans. This is where my path crossed with the Settlers of Catan, as it was called then, and also when I first began to hate the game. But over time, my relationship with this game has changed. I'll tell you why, here on Legendary Tactics. Chapter 1, The Hype. As a person who got into board games with Avalon Hill, Axis and Allies, and countless other classics back in the 1980s, I was excited to hear about the game that was taking the world by storm. I was in university when it was gaining popularity, and though I was a year or two late in getting into the game, hearing about how good it was, I bought not only the base game, but also the 5 to 6 player expansion without ever playing it. And that was my first mistake. Chapter 2, The Excitement. So excited was I to give it a try that I gathered a group of close friends to share what was described as a revolutionary game. It was purported to be the kind of game that would change how I thought about board games. It would blow my mind. Perhaps I came to the table that first time with my expectations much too high, but if you can picture a child who arrives at an ice cream shop on a warm summer day after a long day at the beach only to discover that they only have the rum raisin flavor left, then you can also imagine my extreme disappointment with a game that left me feeling like I'd missed something. Chapter 3, The Letdown. I didn't find this modular board to be particularly interesting, and I'd seen better examples in the kids' game I'd played, like Survive Escape from Atlantis. The game felt very luck-based to me. I had all the 5s, 8s, and 9s, which mathematically made me the board leader, and the people who'd settled on the 3s, 11s, 12s were getting all the resources. So when I finally did get some resources, nobody wanted to trade with me, despite me being clearly nowhere near victory, while they eagerly gave resources to players at 8 and 9 points just about to win the game. So does this game just end up being a popularity contest, I wondered? Or was I maybe just a bad loser? Perhaps. But the game also felt distinctly flawed to me. Where was the deep strategy? The game felt too simple. It felt linear. I have to confess it felt boring. After a few plays, I already felt like I'd seen everything that the game had to offer. Chapter 4, The Renaissance Game. I was hoping that Catan would be the game that got me back into board gaming, but instead I was so disappointed with it that I put it on the shelf after a handful of lackluster games, and it stayed there until a few years ago. The game that eventually did rekindle my love for the hobby back in 2002 was Puerto Rico. It had everything I was looking for in a game: innovation, clever mechanics, variable paths to victory, and an interesting design, also minimal luck. And what it shares in common with Catan is the somewhat problematic colonial theme that today feels a little insensitive. And yes, I lost at Puerto Rico frequently, at least as much as I did at Catan, and I was often not the best player at the table. But the main reason that this didn't bother me was that I could see where I'd gone wrong and what I would need to do to improve in the next game. Of course, I would need to get in coffee. With Catan, it felt like I needed to roll the dice better, or maybe if only I could have drawn better development cards at the right time, or what if I just pleaded more convincingly with my friends? All of these elements felt like they were beyond my control, so the game collected dust on my shelf and moved from an apartment to my first home, and eventually to my farm. It lived in the recesses of my cupboard, barely seeing light for 20 years. When the pandemic hit, the game started flying off shelves again, and it became the same sensation that it had been back in the 90s, so my interest was once again piqued. Chapter 5, 20 years later. Now that I have 3 kids, I've been cycling through the old games in my cupboard, the classics like Dominion and Carcassonne. Somehow, Catan survived the cullings each year as I made way for new games and got rid of the ones that I never played. I suspect that somewhere deep inside, I was holding out hope that perhaps I would grow to enjoy the game. And this is when it happened. I pulled the game out, feeling obligated to include this game as one in my children's board game education, and I relearned how to play it. This time, my hopes for a breathtaking game night were understandably minimal. And so we played. A 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, an 11-year-old, my wife, and myself. Chapter 6, Why I Play Games. When I play games with my family, I'm playing to connect, to have fun, and to share an experience. It's not about strategy or about winning. So as I watch my 7-year-old plan out his path to the resources he would need to get the road he wanted so he could win glory with the longest road, And as I saw my 8-year-old scheming to get good deals in his trades, and when I saw my 11-year-old daughter imagining her world being built and winning the resources she needed with timely rolls, and when I saw my wife playing a competitive game trying to outwit all of us, something changed in me. I found myself having fun. Sure, I was giving away brick, lumber, and ore for a single sheep, but the competitive feel of the game was gone, and that made all the difference. Now it was just about the experience. While it was my daughter who won, we all had fun with the game, and everyone wanted to play again. And we have many times. Chapter 7, The Epiphany. I realize now that I was too quick to judge Catan in its early days, and that my expectations were much too high coming in. I really enjoy Catan now, especially in the context of light, non-competitive gamers. It's a fun game with colleagues over lunchtime, or with friends who are more interested in the baseball game than the board game. And my advice to other people who are trying this game for the first time is not to expect too much and to enjoy the game just for its social benefits. Chapter 8, The Lesson. As someone who's created a strategy video on this game with 150,000 plus views, I now see that there's much more nuance to this game's strategy. It's a game that appeals to different people for different reasons though, and some people do love playing this very competitively. I'm just not one of them. For me, this is a social game with some interesting choices to be made, along with some bargaining and a little luck mixed in too. It's a nice game that appeals to everybody, and Catan taught me that there's a time and a place for every board game, and to really shine, you just need to find where each game fits. Let me know if you have a Catan story to share. I'd love to hear about your experience with the game. And if you enjoyed my story, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share the video. You can come check out some of our other content. Thanks for your time.